Hello, sisters and brothers. Our devotional for today, for June 4, is a reflection on My Utmost for His Highest, a series of devotionals written and compiled by Oswald Chambers. You can always find the link for the daily devotional at utmost.org. And today's devotional is titled The Never-Forsaking God. And Chambers uses where this verse is quoted in Hebrews 13, but I'm going to read it from Deuteronomy 31. And this is Moses addressing Israel as he is about to hand over the leadership to Joshua. And a very familiar verse in many ways, Deuteronomy 31, verse 6. Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid or terrified because of them, for the Lord your God goes with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you. And the devotional titled, The Never-Forsaking God, quoting Hebrews 13, verse 5, where it reads, He himself has said, I will never leave you nor forsake you. What line of thinking do my thoughts take? Do I turn to what God says or to my own fears? Am I simply repeating what God says, or am I learning to truly hear him and then to respond after I have heard what he says? For he himself has said, I will never leave you nor forsake you. So we may boldly say, the Lord is my helper, I will not fear. What can man do to me? Hebrews 13, 5 and 6. I will never leave you, not for any reason, not my sin, selfishness, stubbornness, nor waywardness. If I really let God say to me that he will never leave me, if I have not truly heard this assurance of God, then let me listen again. I will never forsake you. Sometimes it is not the difficulty of life, but the drudgery of it that makes me think God will forsake me. When there is no major difficulty to overcome, no vision from God, nothing wonderful or beautiful, just the everyday activities of life, do I hear God's assurance even in these? We have the idea that God is going to do some exceptional thing, that he is preparing and equipping us for some extraordinary work in the future. But as we grow in his grace, we may find that God is glorifying himself here and now at this very moment. If we have God's assurance behind us, the most amazing strength becomes ours, and we learn to sing, glorifying him even in the ordinary days and ways of life. Now, this devotional gets at some of the stumbling blocks I had, especially in my younger days, where I not only expected big and exceptional things out of God for my life, but I also had a certain idea of the direction that it was supposed to go. And as Chambers points out, it's not always in the difficult moments where we question if God is there. Sometimes it's just in the very ordinary, everyday moments where we think, why would God be present here? And we have to be careful, because if we treat God as simply a rescuer or simply our secret weapon, or we should be calling upon him in times of trouble, or maybe when there's something great that we should be praising him, well, that's not a full view of what God wants to do in your life. God wants to be present right here, right now, in your everyday. And it's in learning to walk with him in the everyday that we begin to see how God is working in the very smallest of things. There's a book called, I want to say it's 1,000 Gifts, but it basically is written from a perspective of noticing the small things to be grateful for every day. And that simple practice led the author to recognize just how God appears in everyday things. And I certainly recommend reading it. I've read it. I went through the practice myself to get to 1,000 and a few more. And it was really good, because we have to remember that God is present with us in every day. He will never leave us. He will never forsake us. There's nothing we can do to change that. So that means that God is here, right now, in your day. Reflect on that and allow that to just be the truth of what is happening, so that you can learn to understand what he wants from you and how you walk with him. Thank you as always for listening. Be safe and stay well.